we're not,
Yeah, that's at the public hearing for $4,586,484. No comments? Let's just move on then. How about the minutes? Everyone read the minutes?
there were long ones this
They
time.
were.
Yeah.
Very thoroughly. I messaged Bonnie, I can't promise that she will answer tonight.
Okay. I'll just try and make what I have.
She's 2 hours ahead also. Anybody? Go ahead.
I move we accept the minutes of July 11th, 2023.
What about the ones from July 25th?
I'll do that too if you want to.
Yeah. You want that one too?
Yes, I do, I'll do
All in favor?
July 25th.
Passes, and then we have 11th.
The 25th.
Oxark was, I'm assuming, chemicals for the plants.
But if it was chlorine, yes, but, oh, it could have been, yeah, I did order some chlorine for the wastewater plant drums.
Yeah, looking. Chlorine, aluminum sulfate. That's crit. Sodium hypochlorite, aluminum sulfate.
Anybody have any other questions? I move to approve the payables for the month of July.
A second.
All in favor? Passes. The bills. Everybody read them? Everybody?
We approved them.
We've already approved them.
It was you. I just hadn't seen you for a while, so I figured you might be checking out.
Well, I'm not gonna do so much on Tuesdays anymore, on the second
Keller,
Tuesday.
do you want to?
Still, do you wanna go or ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Hello again. So,
Yeah, I think I wanted to come here tonight just to kind of answer, kind of provide some information and answer some questions. We recently had a meeting here at City Hall, I think it was last week. USDA Rural Development had some updated information to share with us. We've been working with them to get some additional funding for the project, and so they shared what they're working on, but they also shared that nothing's final. And so they're trying to get that funding package submitted by the end of this week. They asked me for some more information that they need tonight, so I get to work late tonight doing that. But anyhow, what they've been able to do so far is they're trying to pitch to the net. So they're at this point in their funding cycle, any funding requests that include grant, they have to go to the national office. And to do that, they're in competition with other folks, and it's not as simple as a process as earlier in the year when they're able to obligate grant funds that are already allocated to this state. And so what they're going to pitch to them is a grant loan combo for the additional funding. The original funding with them included about $2.9 million worth of funding from USDA. Of that, about $750,000 of it is a low interest loan. For the additional funding, they would need to provide just shy of about $4.4 million. The reason for that, that I've discussed before, is over the last 2 years, we've seen unprecedented inflation. I know that everyone's seen it everywhere from the grocery store to everywhere else across their expenses, but it really hit the construction industry hard. We've seen a lot of costs inflate over the last year to year and a half by, in some cases, double what it used to cost. We've also seen things become difficult to come by, long lead times, and so it has really wrecked the construction market, and probably the only positive news that we have on that front right now is that the steep incline in inflation that we have been seeing over the last couple of years seems to have flattened off and steadied out a little bit. We certainly aren't seeing it come back down. We just had a conversation internally today about how some of the suppliers are just kind of operating differently now. They're not keeping things in stock the way they used to, and so it's affecting construction. This is not something that's just affecting you, it's affecting everybody across the state of Idaho, everybody across the United States. I don't know beyond that. I'm assuming it's affecting other folks outside of this country as well. But because of that, things cost more. And so everyone, including Juliaetta, has put their hand out for additional funding. And so the funding package that they're trying to put together would also include some loan and a lot of grant. The numbers that they were sharing with us last week was that this new loan portion would probably be an additional, I believe they said about $900,000 in addition to the $750,000 that we already have planned with them. These two loans would be the only loans on your project. Everything else on the project will have been grant funded, which is actually pretty incredible when the total project budget, including engineering, construction, contingency, is about $11.3 million. So to be able to get all grant on that except for about $1.6 million is an incredible undertaking. I have been starting to do some updated research with other peer type communities. I was actually in touch with Gen C recently. I know that they're facing an even larger project than yours. They're getting close to opening bids on a second round of bids. And it's my understanding that the first time they bid it here about a month or two ago, the bids for their project came in at a low of about $14.9 million and at a high of just over $17 million. And so I do know that most of their funding is through DEQ, and they got about $12 million of grant funding for theirs, but it also means that the rest of their funding, which will end up being about $5 to $6 million, is all loan funding, which is a vast amount larger than what you have planned for your project. So because of it, you know, their rates are going to be significantly larger. You know, you can't always compare communities side by side, but it is an indicator to see kind of what's happening with other folks. So what that could mean as far as your rates go, and of course this is all still a little bit fluid because we still need to see what the national office is going to come back with and get a report back from USDA on that. But they were telling us that based on their calculations, they thought that your sewer rates might have to climb up to just over $70 a month. It's not the 3-digit sewer rates that we're hearing some of the other small communities, but it's still a high number. And you know, compared to historically what you've had to pay here, it's not what we hoped for when we started on this project 5 years ago, but compared to how we're seeing it affect other folks, I can confidently tell you that you guys are in a better position than quite a few other folks because of how successful the funding packages have been so far. You know, we feel like we've squeezed just about every dollar of grant out of each agency that is participating in your project. You know, just a reminder, you're also getting grant funds from the Army Corps of Engineers, a $1.25 million grant. That is going towards construction. You got a $1.7 million ARPA grant through DEQ. That's also money you don't have to pay back. CDBG also helped pay for almost all of design with their $500,000 grant. So you've been very fortunate to have very good participation. I know that USDA and other folks on the funding agency side are doing their absolute best to get you the best possible funding package. I've been doing what I can to feed them the information and get them what they need so that they can move ahead with it, including what I'm going to have to do tonight, which I'm happy to do it. I don't want to, you know, not get them what they need so that we miss a funding deadline because we want to at least see what they come back with. And then we'll have more final numbers that we can share. I also know that when we do have more final definite numbers, there will be some public education that will be needed. And that is something that Keller Associates can assist with. I've talked with CETA to see if they want to participate in it as well, and they may provide some assistance there also. But I find that in my history of working with communities, particularly small communities, if you get the information out and you help folks understand exactly why, it doesn't necessarily make you excited about what the rates are, but it helps you understand why. And that's the most important, because if you don't understand why, then folks start jumping to conclusions. And we don't want them to have misinformation on what's happening here, because what I can tell you is that your project is not getting any frills and whistles. We're not putting in a basketball court for Justin and Ryan. It is only what is needed to meet your permit so that you can keep your treatment plant operating for a long time. And so to that, I'm trying to think if there's something else I was going to say. I guess, are there questions for me?
We were talking about what you thought how we should raise our rates, and you had suggested maybe $10 this year, and
That's what I was going to talk about, and I forgot, so thank you. And I also visited with USDA about this. I guess another maybe kind of good news side of this is it doesn't mean you have to raise your rates up to that full amount right away. The first loan payment for this project, assuming everything continues on the schedule that we're on right now, construction likely wouldn't start until the beginning of 2024. And construction will take at least a year. We're thinking a little longer because of how long it's gonna take to get the backup power generator and some of the larger pieces of equipment. So it could end up being a little closer to a year and a half of construction. So based on that, we're anticipating that construction would not be completed until any earlier than about summer of 2025. The first loan payment for USDA loans is due a year after closing the loan with them, which would be at the conclusion of construction. So your first loan payment wouldn't be until probably summer of 2026. And so you have quite a bit of time to move things up so that it's not as big of a jump, but each jump will feel, folks are gonna notice it. I know I did when I live in Lewiston, and we just actually got on the heels of finishing a $34 million upgrade there. And we had our rates increased on us probably 3 times in 1 year, and then a couple times the next year, because they were trying to move us up so that they had the revenue that they needed to start. Because a lot of that project is loan through DEQ in Lewiston. So anyhow, that being said, you're at about, I think, 38 something, pretty close to $39 based on what Wendy was telling me earlier today. So if you wanted to start stair-stepping it in nice whole numbers, you could either do annual increases of, we were thinking maybe somewhere around $10, or it might be easier if you did increases once every 6 months rather than just once every 12 months. The other thing to consider is that you don't have to be up to that full rate by summer of 2026, because in the meantime, while you're raising your rates to get up to that, you're gonna have extra revenue in your sewer utility that's gonna be pooling up. And so, I haven't done all the financial calculations on that, but it will buy you a little bit more time before you have to push your rates up to that full amount. You should have a nice little nest egg of money sitting there ready to make your first payment and maybe a little more. So that's something that, if you wanted to do some financial calcs on that, or you wanted us to help out with that, we could certainly look into that, but I wouldn't want to do anything like that until we know what that final funding package is going to look like. And based on what USDA was saying, we probably won't know the final results from the national office until, I think they said sometime in September. I'll have to confirm that for sure. So, did that answer the question you asked, Wendy? Any other questions? Yes?
In September, is that gonna be the final price tag, or it could go up even more from there?
That is the final funding. We won't know the final price tag until we get bids. So we could go out to bid and find out that it costs even a little bit more. There is a contingency that we put into our estimate. We feel confident that our estimates are good. We've performed well in bids elsewhere in the state with the estimates we've been doing. That being said, there are some things that are outside of our control. And so what has been explained to me from USDA is that after that, if they see that there are additional cost overruns, that they would be able to put more grant money in to help with those cost overruns, but they wouldn't be able to do that until we had bids in hand. The other shot in the dark is DEQ has about $39 million worth of additional funding through their Leading Idaho program. And the intent for that is to help with cost overruns on projects that are currently being designed and put out to bid. The only caveat there is that my understanding is that they will be prioritizing those grant funds towards projects that are using DEQ loans for their actual financing. And that won't be you. And the reason it's not you is because you have a much better loan than what you would have if you just stuck with DEQ loan money. Right now, the DEQ loan portion of this project is about $3.8 million, and all of that will be, we actually won't spend all of it. The way that USDA prefers that we do it is we only spend $750,000 of that, which is the loan. Well, if we end up with a $1.6 million one, it would be $1.6 million of that, and then they would pay that off with their loan, and then all of the rest of the project would be grant from that point until the finish line. So, and another good question that came up in our discussion last week, I can't remember if it was Justin or the mayor or Wendy, but the question was, you know, what can we cut off of this project to make it less expensive? To meet your permit, nothing. You know, because like I said before, we didn't add anything extra. It wasn't like, you know, maybe we should put this in because you never know. You might get, you know, a permit limit on this. And what's going in is what's needed. That being said, because of what I just explained with the funding, the last part of your funding is all grant. And so trying to save money means that you're not spending the grant at the end of your project. And so really what you're gonna find yourself doing is, if we end up getting bids that are under the total funding package that we have, and you've got a contingency that we're carrying throughout construction, it means that you're probably gonna be finding ways at the end of that project, if we don't have you know, enough surprise change orders that come up when they're digging. That's usually when it happens. But you could have some leftover money at the end where you're just trying to find ways to spend it at the treatment plant. So that's been my experience with USDA projects, is we're always trying to find just kind of little things here and there at the end of the project to spend the rest of the grant money.
That's how I deal with this, those leftover.
Yep.
So because we have to, whatever we've decided we are going to get, or whatever we've decided we're going to get in loans, that gets spent before the grant money.
Loans first.
I didn't realize that, so I just wanted
Yeah.
to make sure everybody realized that.
Yeah, in fact, there's kind of three folks that like to come into the finish line at the end of the project. It's CETA, or sorry, not CETA, CDBG. They're retaining, I think, 5% of the grant money right now till the end of the project. And so we've actually switched over, and I think Wendy just got in her inbox today the first ARPA grant reimbursement form that needs to be signed by the city. So we've moved to the ARPA money now. But the other two are Army Corps. They like to be during construction and also kind of toward the end, and then USDA's grant. So, Justin.
And wasn't Amanda saying that we skidded in under the line for extra costs on Build Back America or whatever?
Oh, that's a good
Buy
point.
American.
That's a good point. So the Biden-Harris administration implemented a new law that requires that all federally funded projects have to comply with Buy America, Build America, I think is what it stands for, or BABA requirements, which is more restrictive than the American Iron and Steel requirements that you already have on your project. So you have American Iron and Steel, which means that a lot of the iron and steel components have to be either made in America, or there's specific rules that they have to follow. But Buy America, it steps it up, and there's even more of your project beyond iron and steel. So we found that it usually increases your project cost by about 5%, which is quite a bit when you're talking about a $9.5 million project. They did say that we are avoiding those requirements with this project because of when you got your original loan offer from USDA. So it'll save you some money there. That's money that, like in Kendrick, they're going to have to do the BABA requirements unless a future administration repeals that law. Good point, Justin. Thank you. I guess, as always, I just want to make sure everybody has their questions answered. If you think of something else after tonight, feel free to give me a call. I'll tell you everything I know. I think, my recommendation is that we just continue to let USDA do their thing and figure out what they come back with, and hope they surprise us with something even better. And then we're just about done with design. Design will be done internally on our end at the end of this month. And then we'll have it quality checked and ready to submit to the city and DEQ for their review and USDA about the middle of September is the current schedule. So,
And I think we have copies of the 9% here, right, Wendy?
Yeah, they're.
anybody wants to go
Anybody
look
wants
at
to
it?
look at anything. Wendy is now changing careers. She's a lighting specialist, and so
You're such a dork.
she gave us a suggestion for a center yard pole light, which I think is great, instead of just having individual lights, so, yeah.
You know,
I'm proud of you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
so while we're in that section of the agenda, I gave everybody a copy of the proposed resolution, the fee and rate resolution. I changed our water rates and our garbage rates to a 5% increase, which is just the standard whatever. And then that's what the sewer increase would be. It's increased by $10. And if you guys want to do that, then we will have to have a public hearing before next month's meeting because that's more than a 5% increase. So you'll just need to decide what you want to do there. We're not approving the resolution tonight though.
5%, don't cut it.
Not for the sewer, no.
So we're not approving number 5.
You are going to say what you want the rates to be, or at least that, if you want that sewer rate to increase by more than 5%, then so that I can schedule that or publish for that public hearing.
I think $10 a month is a lot. It's a big,
Always did, take $10.
Yeah, but if we have plenty of time, like you stated, I think we should take our
Well,
time to do
we
it. I don't
have
think we should
time,
wait.
but we don't have,
Point of order. We skipped number 4.
yes, we did.
So,
But she wanted to do it while we were still in there.
oh, okay, just making sure that everybody knew.
We have time, but we don't have plenty of time. If we're gonna have to increase our rates by $30, hopefully around the time that our first payment is due, he said it doesn't have to be as soon as then. I mean, we're gonna have to make big jumps. We can't just do a 5% increase, even twice a year won't get us there.
Yeah, it won't do it.
What is the 5% amount if we do, what is the amount if we do a 5%?
It's just shy of $2.
Yeah, so why don't we just do the $5? Well, I mean, go over, but not $10 a month. So if we do the 5, I mean, it's a year, but break it down a little bit easier.
If
I'm
we
thinking
do-
about like what we talked about earlier today, you and I, remember that? That's what bothers me, is people being so upset. $10 is a lot for people that are on budget.
However,
$5 every 6 months?
If we do
But, yeah.
5% every 6 months and through fiscal year 26, that only gets
No,
us.
$5 instead of $10. Do $5 every 6 months instead of $10 now.
Well, and I feel like we should actually,
That way they understand it better.
yeah, that makes it a little,
It's easier for them.
does that mean we have to have 2 public hearings every time, a public hearing every time?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. That's nothing.
Well, and I feel like we should also, look at the garbage rates because, Sunshine offers different things that we might wanna reach out to Amanda and have her come to a meeting to look at the garbage rates also, because they offer a 95-yard container or something like that for somebody who has a small business. So that might also impact how much we're gonna want to raise our sewer rates if we're also have to raise garbage rates more than 5% or add an additional rate. If we added an additional service to that garbage rate, does that mean we have to have a public hearing? Just a thought.
More than 5%.
Because that would affect, I mean, if we're gonna have to raise garbage rates and sewer rates, that might affect how much we wanna do. Cause I do see the point of we're gonna want our sewer rates up, but if we're gonna have to do garbage rates that, you know, depending on different services and all of that.
Well, not everybody's gonna have those, you know, dumpsters.
Right.
Most people have the roll carts.
Right, but some people might want the dumpster. I'm just saying we should also look at those, just to make sure we're still good with all
Well, if
that.
that's an individual thing, isn't that gonna be their individual rate jumping, not the whole town?
We change it in the resolution.
Yeah, 'cause we don't offer that
So if it changes more than
95.
5% in the resolution,
Yeah.
then it has to have a public hearing.
I did some math. Uh-oh. I love spreadsheets, by the way. So, if you did $5 every 6 months, starting with October 2023, but is it $38.95?
38.85.
$38.85. I will change that by
Uh-oh.
10 cents. Boom, it's done. Okay. So if you go up $5 every 6 months, by October of 2026, that would put your rates up to $73.85, which they were saying it would probably be somewhere around 73, based on their current funding package. And what I explained earlier is you wouldn't have to be up at that full amount by the time you're paying your first loan payment in the summer of 2026. So that might even be a little more aggressive than you need to be, to doing $5.
What if we did $4?
Well, I can do that.
Back it up a buck.
So if you did $4 by October of 2026, you would be up to $66.85.
That's quite a difference just for $1.
Yeah, it is.
But like he was saying, by that summer of 2026, we'll have already had our rates raised for a couple of years, and we will be accruing that
Mm-hmm.
revenue. So, I mean, we just really need to be able to make each year's payment,
Yeah, you gotta have it saved up so you can make the payment.
but we don't need to make, you know, every year's payment that, by then, so. we
Which you
Whittling
will.
away at it.
Yeah, you want to have
You
money
will
in the
have that
bank.
money by then, though.
And I don't wanna tell Justin how to run the plant,
Oh.
but technically he doesn't have to run the temperature cooling improvements. I didn't say this, by the way, but he doesn't have to run it until 2029 based on your permit compliance.
Oh,
So that could save you some O&M cost. But I didn't say that.
what year did you not say?
It's in your permit, 2029 is when you need to have improvements constructed by, and 2031 is when you need to have full compliance. But we couldn't delay constructing it because USDA wanted it constructed now.
Right. Well, it's only gonna get more expensive.
If you do $4.50,
Yeah, $4.50.
by October of 2026, you're up to $70.35.
What are your thoughts?
I'm totally with Wendy on this. It's better just to explain to the public, every 6 months, this is what it's gonna cost, this is the reality. Instead of a one-time hit, no matter what you do, $10, this sounds terrible.
It does, it sounds terrible.
It does, but my concern is that it's gonna feel like our rates are going up again, they just went up.
Well, and that's what we were talking about earlier with the post office. I feel that way with stamps. I almost wish that,
Yeah.
like with the postal service, they just do one chunk and leave it there, because every 6 months it's hard to deal with. But we're talking 3 cents to a stamp, not $5 to $10 for water, sewer, garbage, and all that stuff. That's a
So
lot.
there's pros and
Well,
cons.
no, that's just $10 to,
I know, but I'm saying to the bill, it's $10 a month. It's extra for a lot of people when I don't know, I think it's a lot.
450 doesn't sound, I'm sorry.
Would you do 450?
That's what I'm saying. I just wouldn't
not
want
a
to do 10.
month, every 6 months.
Every 6 months, you raise it 450, but yeah. Yeah. I don't know, just $10 is just a huge jump.
I think if Stillman comes back and just says, you know, for the next 2 years, we're gonna be raising rates to get to a certain point, people might understand, you know. Instead if you raise it 10 one month and then 5 another month and then 20 the last month, or
Yeah.
if it's a consistent number, I think that's
Mhm.
good. If it's a consistent thing.
Mhm.
And there's public information out there explaining why.
Mhm.
That's the most important part.
Right.
I don't think I got any notices on my end in Lewiston when they just started raising it.
Well, they knew
but I
you made
knew-
big, so they weren't worried about you.
Yeah, I knew because we were the engineers in Lewiston, so.
So you just bumped up the wages, you got more wages to cover your.
No.
No.
They probably just bumped up your bill.
No,
for
actually,
meals.
no.
Yeah, you kept padding your bill to get that extra month, more month.
City of Lewiston doesn't pay us that way.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
They wouldn't go for it, I tried.
Oh.
The other thing with it too is that inflation's coming in all sides. So there's $4.50 here, it's $2 over here, it's $5 over here, throughout everybody's household budget.
Mhm.
And it buys people time to adjust.
Yeah. I think we should go for 450.
I don't think we're deciding tonight, are we?
Well, we kind of have to decide tonight, so I know what to put in the public hearing.
I'm good with
I'm
450. What do you think? What is your opinion? You haven't really said what your thoughts are.
Just taking it all in.
Usually that's not like you.
No.
No, I mean, I see both sides of the fence. I do agree, like, when I go to the pump, you know, if
It's a little
a
easier.
little here, a little there, you know, like, it seems to be easier to swallow. Like, I'll drive to town, and if it's 5 cents a gallon more, it's not that big deal. If I drive to town and it's 10 cents a gallon more, it really upsets me, so it's an extra,
Yeah.
so, I get it.
What do we wanna do?
Yeah.
I think we wanna raise it, 450 every month, for 6 months,
It was, yeah.
every 6 months.
Is that a motion?
I make a motion that we raise it.
I'll second.
Councilman Anderson calls for a roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Passes.
Then it just goes to the, public meeting, doesn't it? I mean, that, this isn't final.
It'll be
Yeah.
final next month
Yeah.
after the public hearing, and then you'll pass the resolution.
So what is it proposed for garbage rates?
It's in there. It's already changed in that draft resolution by 5%.
And it's almost always 5%.
It's varied over the years.
There was one year I don't think we raised it at all. I think we took the hit because we had a savings account.
Our sanitation fund has always been doing pretty well, so I think that we have some cushioning in there.
Cushion in there.
Can we use that cushion to ease the pain of the sudden sewer?
No, because it's the garbage fund and not the sewer fund.
That's illegal.
That wouldn't be the first time.
Are the water hookup rates and the sewer hookup rates still the same, or have they changed?
I didn't change anything,
You don't change it,
that's up to
okay.
council.
Okay, I'm just checking.
Yes, everything that I highlighted was what I changed.
Would you ask?
You guys can do,
I have a vague number, but I want to make sure that, if they change it, I don't be current, what it before.
I mean, do you have that, do you wanna look at this
Oh,
and
no, it's okay. I mean, I
are
can
your
see.
costs going up?
No,
We don't have very many new connections, it very rarely happens.
no. I mean, occasionally people ask, like, well, I think it's this, I think it's that, you better go check it, City Hall.
Yeah.
Quick question. So it's illegal if you transfer money
Yes,
from one to the
yours
other.
says 15 months.
But to say, because we're
Oh,
raising
understood.
rates
Oh.
and residents are being asked to pay more, maybe we don't go across the board at a standard percentage. That's not illegal to say, right, where you're saying?
No, yeah, what's illegal is to use sewer revenue on the water utility or to use sanitation revenue on the sewer utility.
Okay, that's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm
Okay.
suggesting is that we look at all of our rates and say, maybe we don't have to go up so much as a standard number on everything.
Oh, not 5% for 10, next time we do 3%.
Absolutely, it's just 5% is the max, so that's what I figured in, so you could see it.
That's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
5% is the max without a hearing. Clarify
This is
that.
the meter that we bought, this is a brand new meter that's electronic. So, we're charging that. The brass ones are less, so we're, I mean, these are the most expensive meters, and they're only $250. So, I think we're doing okay.
Ready to move on?
I think so. Go to number 4.
Approve the 2024 budget.
I would like to make a comment. I don't have a problem with employee raises. What I did struggle with is I don't believe that it should have been brought, each person's raise in an open council meeting. I believe that what should have been done is it should have been budgeted X amount for raises, and council should have met in executive session or set up some kind of thing like that. That's my thoughts.
I agree with you.
100%.
And I think that it should be on a little bit at a time, as far as like, for example, Justin gets certificates, a little bit at a time rather than one big lump sum at a time. Same thing as what we're doing here.
Yeah, I definitely think that we figure out how much could be budgeted for raises, and then we talk about it in executive session. That's just
I
my
agree.
piece that I wanted to say.
No, I agree with you.
If I may, I actually wasn't here for the raise portion of the discussion a while back, and I kind of wanted to talk about it, so.
It's not on the agenda tonight, just so you guys both know.
Yeah. Just
I was just talking about the budget stuff, like, I didn't know that I was just making a comment.
It does need to be in the minutes though, and so that the auditors know.
But isn't it related to the budget? I'm sorry, I'm confused. We're talking about the budget, isn't the raises part of the budget?
They are.
But the raises are in the ordinance, right? The biggest passed in October? Like it was for us last month?
No, we don't need an ordinance for employee raises. That's just for mayor and council.
Oh,
It just needs to be in the minutes, so it makes it legal, I guess, for lack of a different word.
So we can't discuss individual portions of the budget of today?
Yeah, I just thought you guys were going down the employee raises road, and it's not on the agenda to be decided tonight,
Well,
so.
pertaining to the budget.
All right.
Are we moving on?
Well, I think you can finish your thought then, right?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to have an opportunity to discuss, particularly with the council, the raises, because I actually didn't recall all the information. I wasn't here to absorb that. And what I did hear, I just wanted an opportunity to discuss it, but pertaining to the budget, not pertaining to that as an individual action item. But I do understand where you're coming from.
yeah, I was just meaning as part of the budget, not each individual, like I was just saying that part of the budget hearing the budget process next year, that I feel like that's something we should think about having went through this year.
Because if we wanted to change, we should have said something last month and brought it to the table for this month, right? Am I getting that right?
Well, no, I was just meaning just something to talk about for next year's budget of how we should maybe go about it,
For the process.
for the process.
Right?
Yeah, wasn't meaning that I had anything wrong with,
Or to change anything.
or to change anything, just something to think about for the process for next year.
So I had asked a couple, I think 2 meetings ago, about discussing it, and I was told that we had to wait on that. And so I don't know that I got that opportunity to do that. So as of right now, I'm not prepared to pass this budget. for my vote.
We're not passing it tonight, right?
You're approving the budget, you're
Oh,
not
approving.
passing the ordinance.
Approving and, yeah.
Whatever is in the budget for raises, if you decide not to give the employee raises or less employee raises, it's not going to affect the budget. You can spend less, you just can't spend more.
So we're saying this is the most we're gonna spend.
When is that decided?
When is what decided?
So if we don't need council approval to initiate the raises?
Yes, you do.
Yeah,
We do.
you did.
Yes.
Okay, specifically
Voted
raises.
on it.
Yes.
Gotcha, okay. No, I'm talking about staff raises. So I'm confused now.
Me too.
He's wanting to know when the final say on employee raises
That'll
is.
be next month.
Okay.
So we can approve the budget at, this is the most we're gonna spend, and then next month, we can talk about particulars as far as employee raises.
As far as employee raises, yeah, but the budget will be all but final by then, because you'll have the appropriations ordinance to pass next month.
And then you gotta get it passed, or then you're in big trouble with.
It has to be passed, so we can start the fiscal year on October 1st, so.
Sure nice day out today.
So I guess if we wanted to review, I think what Mark's wanting to do is review those raises. It would be a time to do that next month,
Before they're locked in stone.
before
To
they're
take
locked in
effect
stone.
in October. Right?
Yes. And in that case, we could go down, we could do it through what Nick is suggesting for next year, right? We're talking about, that's what you were suggesting initially, on how to allocate those raises?
Right. I don't know where we would have to be in executive session, come out of executive session to pass the budget. I'm not sure how that would work. But I was just saying for next year, that's just something I thought we should look at.
So we're gonna pass this budget?
Somebody has to make a motion.
We're approving, we're not passing.
I
We're just approving, yes.
thought we already moved and seconded that we approved it.
We did the tentative budget last month.
Right.
This is the legit budget.
Well, I move that we accept this budget,
Approve the,
approve this budget as it is written today.
You have a second?
I'm gonna second, get it over with.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Then you can discuss it next month to change it.
Yep,
Yes.
yes. Yes.
I voted no.
I know, well, no, I'm just saying.
I understand what you're saying.
But you gotta have a budget. It won't make any difference whether you approve or disapprove.
Legally it does.
Ready to move on? Or we just call her quits?
Move on.
About Kendrick and the wastewater.
Well, I had some thoughts. I feel like, if we did this, I believe that it would be in Julia's best interest to maintain control.
Right.
I don't feel like the district is in our favor. You know, I believe that Justin should run our plant. And there should be a flow meter if we decide to go down that road.
Yeah.
The feeling I kinda got is they feel like they're wanting to do
Their own,
thing.
right, that's what I got.
Yeah.
Well, I kinda took that too, that they wanted to, I think most of the board members wanted to go with their own direction. I think, that's the way I kinda took it.
So basically, I guess my question is, why is it a possible action item tonight if we don't have anything? I mean, why are we doing this?
But I think we're just discussing so that if we decide we just don't want to, we can decide we don't want to.
Just be off the table if we
Just
decide.
be off the table. So we're just basically having it up, right, Wendy?
Yeah, if you guys just decide that you don't wanna move forward with working with them, you can decide that and we're done. Or you can decide you want to, and then we'll take whatever the next step is, or you don't have to decide anything tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I'm ready to decide. I'm
I'm
just,
not either.
just
Yeah, I'm
saying
not either.
kind of my thoughts of what I feel.
Well, have they sent a letter?
No, I
No.
don't think so.
That's what I thought precipitated this
That's-
on the agenda.
that's what I
So
thought
they
too.
actually haven't sent a letter of interest yet to our city.
No, but even if they decide, yes, they would like to move forward, you guys
Right.
still don't have to.
Mhm.
Since it's on our agenda, I've actually been really wanting to hear Justin's input on this, thus far.
I had a conversation with Wendy about it, and initially I was jacked up about it. But since the meetings and everything going on, I've decided that there is no wrong answer. Either decision is gonna be great for both of our towns. So whether they get their own or whether we go together, it's good. As far as a benefit to Juliaetta, it's not a huge benefit for us, really. I mean, in my mind. I mean, our plant is bigger, we'll have a bigger, beefier plant. We may be able to share employees, that kind of thing. But I talked to Stone afterwards, and if Kendrick builds a wastewater plant, they're gonna have to hire another employee anyway. So that will solve Jake's problem of having not enough people to back him up, and, you know, and we could still work back and forth, so.
Kind of like we already do.
Yeah, so, you know, and then also the other kind of negative thing is if they do lose their permit, if that goes away, I'm not sure that's a good thing either, if there is no permit up there. If something
Yeah.
goes haywire, you know, I don't know. I don't know,
That'd be terrible.
but, I don't know.
So Mark, what have you heard from the town?
I appreciate, not a lot, not a lot. I think a lot of people, I don't know that there's a lot of open discussion about it, or as much civic involvement over there as much. They don't have a Wendy that they run to, and
I don't, actually, nobody said anything to me over there about it at all.
yeah, so, I will say personally, and this is not a pitch for it necessarily, or against it, but the two things that I was the most interested in was, I have so much respect for Jake, and Justin and Jake working together. If there's any avenues we can work, that would be great. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a potential savings of almost $1 million. Is that correct, or that's if we?
If they decided to bring their flow to you, it would make sense for them to participate in some of the costs for some of the equipment that you have to put in, that would be shared. And under that scenario, and into the scenario where you're not doing a district, I think personally it would make their costs so high that it would be prohibitive for them to go down that path. Because, you know, they have less connections and they're paying for a lot more than you, and not saying that that's something you have to worry about, I'm just saying I think it would help them make their decision, knowing that that's the only way that, you know, things could come together. And to go back to what somebody else said earlier, the last time they voted on it, 3 city council members voted to do their own facility, and 1 of them voted not to. But all 4 of them said, we'd still like to talk to Juliaetta. So I think that they could potentially try to either vote again or discuss it again at their next council meeting.
I think it would be better if more of the council was for it, you know, they would vote and they would want to do it, instead of three of them not wanting to.
And they may have a better idea of whether or not they would be for it or against it after that last meeting that we had. I can't remember what the date was, it was a few weeks ago.
The 25th, right? Yeah, the 25th.
Oh, a couple weeks in. I guess time's not flying as fast as I thought it was, so. But yeah, that, they've received a lot of information in that meeting too. And
It's a lot to understand what's going on.
yeah, I think the other three, you know, in my opinion, would change their vote if they saw that there was a better situation to join up, if that's how they received the info. I didn't get any inclination from them that they were going to change how they're feeling about it right now, so.
Just to finish up my comments too, at this juncture, I would be fully behind Nick that this should be ran by Justin. There would need to be that person at the top, and it should be Juliaetta.
I do appreciate that. The only other thing that nags in the back of my mind is, as you all know, we're getting, you know, properties selling, people are moving in. You know, I don't know what the future is going to look like, but I know that people are moving here a lot quickly lately. And that's the only other consideration I can think of, is that there was some way to have an expanded way to handle waste for a lot more people moving in the area and living here. You know, I just don't know what's going to happen.
Follow-up question on that though, Justin, is where is the room that they could be moving into? Because what I do hear over there is that people are moving into what used to be commercial buildings because they just don't have anywhere to expand there. We don't have a lot, but we do have some. So I guess when I was hearing that, when we were talking about it, I was thinking like, well, if we expanded, it would be Juliaetta doing the expanding mostly anyway. It seemed
Yeah,
like
that's kind of true. Yeah, we have on our, you know, extended plan, we have a piece on American Ridge. All of that up there could potentially be built. We've got Jack Brown's addition over there, which could all join the sewer system. Plus, we've got all the land between Juliaetta and Kendrick, which is pretty narrow, but there might be some people on the hillsides.
Now, could that be added to Julietta's sewer without the expansion from Kendrick as well?
No. Well, American Ridge could, and probably Jack Brown's could.
Okay.
It would be easier if the line came down the highway already from Kendrick, but the answer to your question is yes, they probably could be added anyway, without the line from Kendrick. But between Juliaetta and Kendrick, you know, I don't know.
Where would the growth take place there? Would it be on top of that flat? I mean, how much real growth could there be between Juliaetta and Kendrick, that central straight stretch area?
Not a lot.
Well, right in there, there's nothing but a swamp.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah, nothing
swampy.
but a swamp.
And then up on the flat
You'd
up
have
there?
to have up on the hill.
Yeah, but why would you wanna hook to the city sewer system? I wouldn't.
Right.
If I had a place out there, I'd have my own. I wouldn't hook to the city. It'd be stupid to hook to the
Right.
city.
It just seems like Juliaetta is where the growth even potentially, now maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's a pocket in Kendrick that I'm not even thinking about.
Well, it don't make any difference whether it's level or straight up and down. You can always make a level spot.
Some of that stuff in Kendrick's pretty hard rock. I mean, I wouldn't wanna live on it.
Kendrick's steep.
Mm-hmm.
Kendrick's steep.
Could they blend behind us?
What's that?
Could they blend behind us?
I think so. Yeah, it's up there.
Because here,
I will tell you now
they're
though,
digging it out.
the flow now is really, really, really low this summer at the sewer plant. There's a lot of empty houses or people on vacation and school's out. It's really strange. Yeah.
So was Kendrick gonna write a letter
If they were interested.
if they were interested?
I don't think they've had their council meeting yet, so that's probably why you haven't heard from them.
Next
Theirs is
week.
next Tuesday,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess we need to kind of table this and see whether they give another, if they send a letter within the next.
If you're possibly
Right.
interested, but if you're not interested at all, she said we can make a motion tonight and just be done.
Well, but we don't even have, I don't think we have to table it because it's impossible. So the possible action would be if we're for it or against it, we can still just not even do anything, correct, Wendy, and just wait and see if
Yeah.
Kendrick gives us a letter.
Right, I think we need to wait and see if they give us a
Yeah,
letter.
this is just kind of open discussion, I think.
Can I put in 2 more cents? So, and I don't wanna put words in anyone's mouth.
Inflation, 3
No.
cents.
Every 6 months. So when the discussion came up, or actually a side discussion came up about the trail, and I know we've mentioned this in here, it was my impression that some of the council were like, how much of a disaster that would actually be. Explaining that to the public, and so I do think that's a big issue.
A lot of people use the trail.
A lot of these, a lot of people.
How long would the trail be incapacitated for?
3 months.
Probably 4 to 5, I would plan on the worst.
There for a second, I thought you were gonna table it.
That's true, I can just table this because you guys don't even wanna do this right now, so.
My impression was that some of the Kendrick council felt exactly the same way, that would be really disastrous, or it would be difficult to get the public buy-in on just
That's what I thought.
But
The
it won't be
population,
temporary.
the design population that's being built into your plant is a population of about 800. So there's some room for growth, but we didn't have to plan for a lot because you don't have that much area to grow.
Right. Anyway.
I'm good waiting.
Yep.
Well, Justin, what do you got?
I don't really have a lot right now. We fixed the roof on Old Main, which everybody knew about. It
I
was,
didn't know about it.
well, I mean,
Yeah, I didn't know about
everybody
it.
knew after the fact at least. It was on a Sunday, so, you know, we had to fix it. We didn't have a choice to wait till Monday, so.
So is the water okay now in Old Main? Yeah. Because Sarah wrote that hers tasted like,
But that's just from it being summer water.
it's just amazing.
I-
Mine doesn't do that.
But we haven't actually, I told Frank yesterday, we haven't had to use the pump nearly as much this year. I mean, I'm just plugging it in intermittently now and then just to beef up the water, but, you know, we're getting clean water from under the river mostly.
It's
So,
good water.
it's holding out for the moment.
I just want to thank you guys for getting right on that and getting that fixed on Sunday. That was greatly appreciated.
That was,
That's all I have.
I forwarded you all Tristan Kimball's email about no longer being able to be our building inspector. So he had given me the number of an Idaho State building inspector, so I contacted that guy. And he said, basically, let's see, Kamei is doing this, and there are probably gonna be other cities doing that too, because Tristan was a building inspector for several other cities. Basically, someone should be contacting us about the possibility of setting up an agreement, which would be very similar to what we did with Tristan, wherein their fees would be paid through building permit fees. We charge so much, or there's a list of what we charge for however much the building permit is for, and then the building inspector gets so much percentage, and then we get so much percentage. I don't know what that will be, but it sounded like that would be how we would pay for that. So I just wanted to let you guys know that that's possibly coming, and so that would be a way to have a building inspector, rather than finding another individual person who wants to do that sort of thing. He said in the meantime, anyone can submit a building permit with the state, and they'll take care of that. So, you know, if next week we have somebody who wants to build a house, they would just pull a permit through the state, but the city wouldn't receive any of those fees because it would be the state handling the building inspection without a contract or an agreement rather with the city. So that'll obviously be on the agenda at some point for you guys to hear about and
Leave you there. I guess we're done with
I move to adjourn.
Second.